as I said before, it is wonderful to be in Prague. I always feel an immediate connection with groups, no matter what language, no matter what country, because of where I come from. I'm very, very proud of the fact that I don't come from Wall Street, that my wife and I were average people. We picked up the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and we tried to use Blair to help calm and master our little voice. And one of the things that I've learned to be true is there's a lot of folks that believe that if you want to make money in paper assets, stocks and options, that we have to get a broker, that we have to have someone else make those decisions. And what you're about to find out is that the truth is, I can show anyone in this room exactly how you can go out and get the education necessary to make your own decisions and feel very relaxed, very comfortable about investing in the markets. I was thinking as I was preparing my remarks today about an experience I had on an airplane that I want to share with you, and it really underscores the education. I speak so often that when I get a chance to be on an airplane, I like to keep my mouth closed and have private time, and sometimes I get a big talker next to me. Do you guys know what I'm talking about when you're on the airplane and they talk and they talk? And so I keep my headphones ready, so as soon as we hit 10,000 feet, I can put my headphones on, listen to my music, and it's over. Well, I was on a flight recently. It was about a 2-hour flight, and it was going to from a city, Philadelphia, to a city called Fort Lauderdale. And I was going to an investing conference to give a speech on stocks. And there was a wonderful lady that was sitting next to me, just bubbly and filled with personality. And she sat down next to me and she said, "I am going to Fort Lauderdale." And I thought to myself, yes, we're all going to Fort Lauderdale. And she began to talk and she said, "Well, what is your name and what do you do?" And I said, "I am Andy Tanner and I am an investor." And I'd like you all to say the same thing. I'd like you to say that I am an investor, because when you can say it, you start to believe it. My first coach used to have me say, I had never traded a stock before. I didn't have a stock account. And I was walking around saying, "I am an investor." Everybody give that to me right here, everybody. I am an investor. Now give it to me in Czech. Ready? I'm an investor. Exactly right. And so out of habit, I said, "I'm an investor." And she said, "Like stocks and stuff?" And I said, "Yes, like stocks and stuff." And she said, "Oh, this is perfect." And I thought, no, this is a 2-hour flight is what it is. And so I put my headphones down and I knew we were about to talk. And she asked me a question that many, many people ask. She said, what should I do? She had a husband who worked for a company. He had gone up the ranks and they had saved almost $1 million, just close to $1 million US. And he retired or left the company, and he gave it to a broker to manage for him. And in the subprime meltdown of 2008, they lost their money. They had been diversified heavily and a lot into financials, and it was gone. And her demeanor changed, and she became less bubbly. She said, "We have lost almost 3/4 of that money. We have about $250,000 left. We have much to go before we die." And she said, "What should I do?" And I thought for a moment, if I would have been a heart surgeon, and she might have said, "Hey, I'm thinking about removing a valve from my heart tonight. Do you have any tips?" Or if I was an architect and she says, "I'm going to build a building in my backyard. Do you have any tips?" And I think where she might have missed the point is that investing, if you can gain one thing from me, is investing is not about just getting a hot tip. Should I buy gold, or should I buy silver, or should I buy real estate? People tend to have been trained to park their money and invest at arm's length rather than really getting into the investing and getting an education. So I spoke with her and I said, before I tell you what I would do, you would have to know that I have a different education than you do. And that because I put in the time and the work and the energy and the money, I can make decisions and be comfortable with certain investments that you may not be. And she said, "Well, how does a person get educated? how does a person learn these types of things? And she asked me how I learned it. And I've thought since then, you know, if I could try to summarize things, it's really difficult to try to take someone from ignorance to complete proficiency in 90 minutes. Yes? Can you empathize with me on that? That I've had mentors and experience in years and years. And so what I want to share with you is not maybe so much what to buy today, but what you could begin to study and what you could begin to learn to arm yourself with very, very powerful knowledge that will see you through the next few years of turmoil. And I call my presentation today the 4 pillars of investing. And I'm going to introduce you to 4 topics that you can become a student of that will see you through and give you a very solid foundation on which to build, whether you're in precious metals or whether you're in real estate or business or stocks. And if you will take the time and the effort to study these 4 things, I think you're going to be in wonderful shape. I also give you my promise that everything I teach you will be relevant. Today, tomorrow, whenever we meet again. A lot of the frustration I had in school was that they taught me things that were interesting, but maybe not crucial. Do you know the difference between the word important and crucial? This is the way I teach it. It is very, very important that my wife gives me a present on my birthday. That is very important. But gentlemen, it is crucial that I give my wife a present on her. One is big, one is not. Yeah, you get it. Some of you not married yet, you'll learn. You will learn that for sure. I also in high school learned things like how to dissect a frog. I'm curious in your country if you do this as you come up through school in your biology classes where you have to cut open the frog or another animal. Has anyone ever done that? Boy, that's come in handy, hasn't it? But well, maybe not. But I'm going to show you things that really matter that you can use every single day. Does that sound good? Yes? Yes. Beautiful, fantastic. First, we have to have a quiz. I'm interested to know how many of you have purchased the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Please put your hands up high in the air for me. Wonderful. So you found value in that purchase. Fantastic. The core of that book is to teach us the difference between an asset and a liability, yes? And the definition that I took from that is that assets are things that we buy that put money in our pocket, yeah? So I want to hear that from you. Assets do what, everybody? Put money where?
In my pocket.
Let me hear it.
In my pocket.
And let me hear it in check.
Look up there.
Very good. And liabilities do what?
Better.
I'm trying to learn check, so you got to tell me in check. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to name some objects. And what you're going to do is tell me whether they belong in the asset column and put money in our pocket, or whether they belong in the liability column. Are you ready? Say yes if you are.
Yes.
This is a big quiz. A brand new car, asset or liability? Liability. Because why? Takes money out of my pocket. Okay, so we'll put the car there. How about a house with a positive cash flow? Asset or liability? Because why? Puts money in our pockets, so we have the house. Spouse. Those that have your spouse sitting next to you right now are at a loss for words, I see. Well, I'm happy to report that for me, she's an asset, right? Evidently, thank you. Evidently, for some of you, it's a liability. What if your spouse is a liability? Then what? Exit strategy. Yes, thank you. I was nervous about, I speak in many different countries, and it's always interesting to see if my sense of humor will translate into the next language. And I told my wife, I'm nervous that they won't think my presentation is funny. And she says, Andy, people don't think you're funny in English, let alone Czech. So that's what. That goes. I don't know. Okay, here's one that we might think about, a little bit different. Asset or liability? Ignorance. Asset or liability? Ignorance. Why? That will take more money out of our pocket than anything if we want to be an investor without being educated. They're one and the same, are they not? That's where money, asset or liability? Education, which one? Asset. In fact, it's our greatest asset, is it not? And so we're going to learn about what we can study. And I call these the 4 pillars of investing, if we would please. And we're going to talk a little bit about this. If I can bring my slides up, would that be okay? Beautiful. So, what is the Rich Dad mission? Well, it's our mission as Rich Dad Advisors to support Kim and support Robert in the mission of giving people opportunities for financial education to help anybody that really wants to move from the right side or from the left side to the right side. And we can always tell how people think by the questions that they ask. You remember my friend, the lady that was sitting next to me on the airplane, yes? And she asked this question. She said, what should I be investing in today? And I get that all the time. People say, Andy, if you had a certain amount of money, what would you buy today? Or what would you have someone else buy today? And one of the questions that Kenny will ask, or what Robert will ask of me, which is much different, and it's a smarter question, I think, is this one. They say, what should I be learning today? And what are you studying today? You know, I know 2 things about Robert that I could share. I know the last seminar he signed up to take, and I also know the last asset that he purchased. And it's interesting to see which people are more interested in. To know what Robert has purchased right now, or to know what he's trying to learn more about in preparation for the next few years. It's a great, great thing to think about. Which question is the one you're going to ask? What am I learning, or what should I just buy today? So, if for those of you that say, Andy, what are you studying? I continue to study these 4 pillars. And I want to share them with you if we can. The first pillar that we're going to speak about, and it's got a fancy name, but my promise to you is to make this simple, is called fundamental analysis. You know, I just realized one of the nice things about speaking in a foreign country, and I'm a little nervous because most of you speak English better than I do, and you certainly spell better. I told Robert once, I says, I always get nervous having to write words in front of people because I don't spell well, and my grammar's poor. And Robert said, if you can only spell a word one way, that simply means you lack creativity. And I thought, that'll work for me. So we have fundamental analysis, or what I call fundamentals. Now, I like pictures. So what I do is I always draw an income statement and a balance sheet to remind me what that is. Fundamental analysis is the strength of an entity. Fundamental analysis is the strength of an entity. Fundamental analysis tells me how strong an entity is. It might be a person. I could come to your home and we could sit down at the table and I could look at your income statement, I could look at your balance sheet, and I could tell immediately whether you were a strong household or whether you had room for improvement. I could take a company, if I were going to buy shares of stock in the company, and I could look at their financial statement, their income, expenses, assets, and liabilities, and immediately I could know whether or not they're a strong company or whether there's room for improvement. I could also take a nation. I can take an entire nation, look at their assets, liabilities, income, and expenses, and know immediately whether they're strong or whether there's room for improvement. And so as an investor and as a business owner, the first area that you will want to learn to study and learn more about is called fundamental analysis. How strong is this company? What do they look like in terms of income, expenses, assets, and liabilities? You can do it with a person, you can do it with a corporation, or you can do it with a sovereign nation. Now, the next one that we're going to study is called technical analysis.